Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to be in the van recording this conversation with you. What I have been thinking about recently is letters to self. And letters are something that are very important to me. They're important to me to receive. They're important to me to give. I feel like there's a paucity or a deficit of people writing letters to one another, to slow down, to take that time to offer their thoughts, their experience, their encouragement to other people. And I also want to suggest in this podcast episode that there might be an opportunity for you to write letters to yourself. And I'd be very interested if this is something that you already do on a regular basis. I'd be very interested if this is something that you have done before, or if this is something you want to try doing. And I have done this both in written form, and I've done it in audio form. And I'm doing a lot of that just even concurrently. So oftentimes people will say, their life is boring. Like when I reach out to them, want to check in with them, what's going on? Oh, no, not much. But really life is just full of so many transitions. If you have kids, they're just ever evolving, like their growth milestones, like developmentally, what they're interested in, what sports they are in, what grade they're in. And that doesn't stop when we're an adult. And of course we can interact with that, and our rate of growth has a lot to do with our willingness to contribute to the process. But life is full of opportunities for growth and for learning. And for me, I'm a verbal processor, and to have some avenue to get that out, whether that's talking to somebody, whether that's therapy, whether that's journaling. And today I want to talk about writing letters to yourself. And this is a different skill this is a different practice than journaling. Journaling can take many forms. It can just be free form, where you're just writing out what occurs to you, your thoughts. It can be you can have prompts. There can be things that you write about every day. You could be going through a journey of a journaling book where they give you different prompts for a particular day to lead you through some lead you through some sort of growth process or healing journey. But letters to yourself, this is. And so letters to other people, like I said, can be this encouragement. It can be this storytelling. It's this connection point. And so to offer this to yourself is such a deeply loving thing to do. It's a very kind thing to do. And I have had the good pleasure of receiving numerous letters to self in this recent time period. I had one that I wrote at an anti-racism. So this was guided, an experience that was offered during a anti-racism workshop that I was in, and that was written in July, and I believe they sent it out in January, in the new year. So it was, I think, a 6-month gap. And that is actually important enough to me that it's up behind me if you're watching on YouTube, it's up behind me on just over my counter in the van and kind of the kitchen area. I, last year, for the first time ever, facilitated quarterly retreats. I'd done this annually for, I don't know, I think 2018 in the new year was the first time that I had ever offered these retreats. And my intention was always, I had heard of somebody doing silent retreats quarterly, and I was starting to understand and grow in life in a way that I knew that rest and quietude and contemplation were very important. And these people just really, like, if I had ears that grew, or like a dog, perked up, my ears just like perked up, and I just thought, like, who are these people? It was a couple, and the woman ended up being my spiritual director for a time, but they just shared that they went on quarterly retreats, and I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing to get centered, after every 3 months. We have daily times, we have weekly times, especially, like, I'm coming from a religious tradition where, you get together on Sundays, but I didn't have like this bigger kind of scope to, like, these longer periods of time to come back to that were regular. I would go on whatever retreat was facilitated by whomever, but it wasn't a practice that I had. And I did those last year. And so in the annual one, or the New Year's one rather, these theme retreats where you have your word for the year, and you have this time, the environment is just to allow you to set up with the intention for you to connect to yourself, to know, to be able to hear your own voice, the spirit in you, to connect to your soul and your essence, your true self, so that you might be able to act in a more integrated way, which is to say a healthy way, and a more alive way, and fulfilling and authentic and healing, and so many other things that come along with living a healthy, integrated life. And so we don't do it annually, or at the top of the year. We don't write these letters, but part of, like, the quarterly retreat has been writing a letter that you'll read at the next quarter. And so I did that last year, and I got those letters. So I don't have one for my January, but in January I was able to read. So January I got doubled down on, because I had that one that I'd forgotten about from that anti-racism workshop. And I had these letters to myself. In the fall, I had the one that I had written in my retreat in July was the day after my fiance breaking up with me. And I still went, I had that retreat, and went through with it, facilitated it, and it was so wonderful, and had those letters, and I was able to talk about, like, hey, Elle, kind of imagining where I'd be, and just those words of encouragement, and bleep, holy shit, that is some revelatory, revolutionary thing to speak to yourself in that way, to hype yourself. I increasingly just try to go through life encouraging people. That was something that was a deficit in my life, in receiving it, and because of that, it was I would think things, but I wouldn't extrovert it. I wouldn't say the good things. And even recently, and we can talk about this in another podcast as I unpack it. I'll have to unpack it a little bit more before there's something to really share. But even last week, something happened at work, and I just felt like this, I gotta tell that person that this bad thing happened when they were gone because of their actions. And it wasn't my role. It wasn't, and I was just, like, noticing, right? So instead of judging myself, I noticed, and then I thought, oh yeah, this is part of that pattern. But in being non-judgmental about it, I scribbled a little bit real quick at work, and I'm talking to you about it now. It's allowing me to space to be able to go into this pattern and see why this is, and I know it's something that was handed down to me, and so I don't need to be, it's not part of my true essence. My true essence, I learned, and part of it was in clown school, oh my goodness, a year and a half ago. My clown persona, oh man, clown school, holy shit, amazing. If you're ever in LA, or I think you should travel just to LA for 8 weeks just to do that, even if it's 3 hours a week. But the most embodied experience I've ever had, and sustained week over week. But at the end, I got to explore, what I might be as a clown. And what came out was just this like effusively exuberant encourager. I really just cared about how other people were feeling and doing. So I was not at all motivated to be like, that was awkward, you did that wrong, like I had been trained to be in my life. But I was just like pats on the, and we had to do it silently, and so it was very like body language of like pats on the back, thumbs up, big smiles, and like maybe some hugs, side hugs, whatever. And I didn't care if I was awkward or if they were surprised or whatever it was. I just really wanted them to know that I cared about them and was encouraging them. And I think that process that we went through with the clown was that there was this, I think it's this repressed part of me. And these letters to self are a way. And so I've increasingly, and I use this word hype, and I know I'm not the first one to say it, but I am not in a crowd of people that say it, but increasingly people around me like adopt it. And I just want to be a hype person for people. And there was a guy at the writing retreat that I went on in 2023, the writer's retreat, and man, what a trip that was. I just spoke to him last week, Michael, shout out Michael, and he had just met me that evening, and he stayed up even though it was like 11 a.m. West Coast time. So that meant he was from the Midwest, so that meant it was like 1 a.m. and he was staying up because I was gonna like all of a sudden pitch this. I was just like in it in that retreat. I was just open for opportunities, and I just kind of went for it. And he was just like, hell yeah, like if you're gonna, I'm here to like woo woo, yeah. And that has strong memories of him as being like a hype man for me. So shout out Michael. That means so much to me. And he's encouraged me, and I have it in my head, and I'm in the steps, but haven't done it to do more with my storytelling, like a moth kind of storytelling. I don't know if I'm supposed to say these kind of things out loud, because sometimes you need to keep things close to the chest, and I'm still learning about what in the process to share and what not to share and when to share things. But this is all about encouragement. So these letters to self are all about, what do you want to say to yourself in the future? What do you know you're going to need to hear? What do you imagine that you're going to need to hear? And man, those letters, so that letter from after the breakup was like, Elle, I know you're sad, and I know you're feeling better than I do now. 3 months later, I know you're doing better, and I just want to call out how you showed up here, and I'm so proud of you, and I love you, and oh man, so good. And I just recently realized, and this kind of prompted me to do it in podcast form to talk about this, is that I also do video. I've done audio ones. I had a therapist that encouraged me to do audio even as a processing to kind of work through things, but I've taken on myself that I'll have these conversations with myself, and I don't know how long I've done it. I for sure have done it. I remember doing it in my divorce, and as I work through the grief with that, and man, it's been so helpful. So last night I just went through a number of my videos to self, and my experience of doing that. So I get hyped up, but I also, it's about reorienting to who you are, the story of who you are, because we get caught up, we're storytellers, like all of us, in terms of how we live our life. We're telling a story about the world, we're telling a story about ourselves, about when we go out into the world and how we interact with the world. We're telling stories about who you are, who I am, how we interact together. What do I do for work? What do I live? What am I like? What do you like? What do you like? And these letters to self are such a grounding way to be like, yes, this is who I am. Yes, this is who I am. And the day-to-day rhythm of life can start to feel grinding and wearing down when you don't have these kind of seasons to renew you, to snap you out of the funks we get in. And last night I stayed up later than I, quote unquote, I got some air quotes here, should have, But I had gone to an open mic, and it was, can I just share it? It was exhilarating. I invited people to play with me. I played 3 songs. It's so cool, this open mic allows you to play 3 songs. I've been doing it for about 2 months at this particular location, and I went into the evening not knowing what I was going to play, because I just don't have a lot of energy for guitar right now, and I play it when I can, but it's also just, I like it, when it's just like hanging up, and can just grab it, but with traveling around right now, I can't just leave it out. It's got to be tucked away. And so it can just be like a little bit too much sometimes to get out. And there's certain times where I just really need it to regulate. It is very regulating for me. I love playing guitar. I love singing. And so I played, and I invited people to play, and it was a blast. And this is a growth thing that that I want to capture and tell myself about. And it's because of these kind of letters to myself that have it's part of the process that's allowed me to grow to the point where I can show up in front of people and share this lyrical poetry, the songwriting that I do, the words, the melody, the actual playing, and through clown school and things like that I can make eye contact, that I can be present with people. And it was so fun. And I even took the risk. The 3rd song was totally improvised. Maybe, possibly, I'll put it on the. No, I don't know. I just always want to be like brave, and so I'm like, maybe I'll put it at the end of this. I'll put it up on social sometime. You can find it, but I don't generally share that sort of thing. Yeah, you can find things like that on, if you follow me, my newsletter, Becoming Divergent. So that's either on Instagram or the newsletter, or I have a YouTube channel. That's where I share things like that, versus this content with the podcast is usually on, it's hosted on the Elle Bottrell on YouTube, and through my website, theellebottrell.com. So anyway, it was so fun. It was so exuberant. And I came back, and of course I was a bit wound up, and I didn't, even though I had a good time slot and I didn't have to stay really late like I often do, I stayed because it was like so much fun, and people were so connected to me. It was just like so fun to have somebody playing like lead guitar over it, and I had somebody kind of scatting vocals, and I'm freestyling the chord structure was like the same, this kind of funky kind of groove. There's somebody playing percussion. We got a tambourine in there. Somebody playing bass guitar, and then me playing my acoustic guitar and singing, and it was such a blast. And it's things like these letters to self that are allowing me to do that. And I came back, and then I watched a number of these, late. It's like I had to be to work at 7:30, or working. I had to be with patients at 7:30, and here I am at 11, like just starting to go through these videos. And but I also felt like it was worth it to go back and just take in these letters to myself, because this every season has its own journey and its own challenges, but man, boy oh boy, woo! This season of life, with the breakup, and then using that to launch right into van life, and what that's meant, like work-wise, career-wise, having my dog die last summer, shuttering my business, leaving the city that I lived in for a decade and a half, like so many changes, so many changes, that, man, to go back and see those letters to self, those notes to self, I was so loving to myself. I was so present, and I do think I will share some of those letters to self, and if not on the Lyle community is what's on Instagram for this podcast, but I definitely, I think we'll share some on the Becoming Divergent, and that's all. Everybody tells me I gotta focus, but I think there's part of me that is like a scanner. There's a book about scanning that I always have to do different things. But so I just want to throw it out there. I'm curious. I'd love for an email. Feedback. I think you can text on the various podcast apps. You can leave messages on Instagram. I'm very interested in you and Letters to Self. You can also comment on YouTube. That's what I have for today. If you have never written a letter to yourself, never recorded a video to yourself, these timestamps, these vaults, so powerful. And I would just encourage you, when you do this, the whole point is to hype yourself, and the point is to be very authentic. So you're not lying to yourself. You're not painting over things. You're owning what is. You're acknowledging it, and you're saying, "Man, I'm so proud of you, and I love you, and you're doing so great." And here's ways that you're doing a really good job, and that can help you look back kind of retrospectively. And it can also, especially the written letters, those are definitely like a note to self in the future. A lot of times when I do the video recordings, they are a bit more of a, here I am at this time, and here's kind of my thoughts about life and what I'm processing. And it's also really helpful to go back, and when you're going back through it, to see the through line, because we can feel stagnant. We can feel like we're not growing. We can feel like we're not changing. But the letters help so much with that. The videos, one of the videos that I watched last night, I was in Yosemite at a river, and it's so gorgeous, so beautiful. And I know, and even in the recording, there's sadness at various times, and I know that was the grief was such a companion with me, and I was having so delight. I even commented in the video of the beauty of how good the air smelled there in Yosemite, and then feeling the breeze and the sun and hearing the sounds of the river, and just all the, I was very in my senses. And even last night, so I'm sorry if this is me, so this is the kind of making connections with everything, but I met somebody last night. He played the lead guitar on this jam video about, and the jam was about the lyrics that I started with. It was just about the open mic locale and that business and kind of what was going on in there. So Pinot's Palette, and I usually don't try to say where I'm at, but I'm really grateful for open mics. Let's just say that, and grateful for the growth. But this man, just pretty. He had played. This was before I played. So I was trying to figure out what to play. I was outside trying to figure out what to play, and just talking to him, and he said, "You're very grounded," and I was just kind of gave space to that, and I was like, "Yep," and. That's a pretty cool thing, just to have this growth in my life on this contemplative journey, to the various ways that people notice that and respond to that. And because I do think the grounding allows me to hold space for people. It allows me to be more compassionate in the world and loving in the world, and just hopefully more kind and patient, more generous. So, letters to self, whether that's videos and writing, give it a try. Excuse me. An extra credit, write encouragement notes to people. I also, it was really fun, I left encouragement, little post-it notes for my coworkers today. I'd been thinking about it, and these kind of things can be scary to encourage people. That's my experience. And it's not just you're killing it. Please don't ever encourage somebody by saying you're killing it, because that's not a compliment. But tell them as specifically as you can something that you appreciate about them, and how their positivity or their compassion or their patience or their sense of humor or their efficiency or their creativity or their consistency. Whatever it is, just call it out, and however you want to clap it, slow clap it, but just hype that up for them. That's extra credit, because in my experience, it breeds connection. And I'm sitting in the glow of that. It's really fun, the connection that breeds, and I'm super glad to be back, that my life is allowing me to be podcasting with you again. It's allowing me to be writing these encouragement notes, to post-it notes and mailing things off and writing stuff to myself, and then just sharing my songs with the world. So I think I'm going to go post one of those on the Becoming Divergent in the next little bit, which will probably be before this is actually posted. May you always see the blessing. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Lyle Podcast. I hope to see you at the next one. You can make sure that happens by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead and listen to past guests. There's really just a wealth of knowledge there. This is a passion of mine, to help you live your healthiest life, and to do that together in community. Contributions would make this work so much more easy, and you can do that via the link in the show notes, or the website through Ko-fi, and the website is www.theellebottrell.com. You can join the newsletter, the Lyle newsletter, via the website and show notes. There's also opportunities if Instagram is your thing. I'm on there on occasion, and you'll look for the Lyle community, and Lyle is Lyhl. If you want to see the video of this, if you're not already there, you want to go over to YouTube, and you'll look for the Elle Bottrell, and you'll be able to watch videos from there. Merchandise options to help share that positivity, helping others to live their healthiest life. And you can find that via the website, or emailing me at info@theellebottrell.com. Thanks so much, and may you always see the blessing.